Stay calm, think smart. That single decision can change the way you face every difficult moment in life. We live in a world that never stops testing us. Stress at work, misunderstandings at home, unexpected problems that shake our confidence. It all comes fast, and most people lose control because they react before they think. The truth is, it's not the situation itself that destroys peace of mind, it's the way we handle it. This book, Stay Calm, Think Smart, The Art of Critical Thinking in Difficult Situations, is about giving you the tools to handle those moments differently. Here you will learn how to pause when panic rises, how to question the quick assumptions that often mislead you, and how to use clear reasoning when emotions are pulling you in the wrong direction. Every chapter is built to help you stay steady, think clearly, and act wisely. If you want more calm and control in daily life, your journey starts here. Chapter 1. Train your brain to stay calm during sudden stress. When life presses hard and sudden stress shows up, most people feel their heart race, their thoughts scatter, and their decisions become cloudy. In those moments, the difference between falling apart and staying strong often comes down to training the mind. You see, calm is not just something that happens when things are easy. Calm is built, calm is trained, and calm is a choice you practice long before the storm arrives. And if you want to think smart when it matters most, the first step is to train your brain to stay calm during sudden stress. Stress has a way of sneaking in fast. Maybe it's bad news at work. Maybe it's conflict with someone you care about. Maybe it's an unexpected bill that feels overwhelming. Your body reacts immediately. Your chest tightens, your hands sweat, your breathing speeds up, your brain starts searching for danger. It is a natural response, but it doesn't always serve you, because in that moment, your ability to think clearly drops. You say things you don't mean, you rush into decisions you regret, you give in to fear instead of reason. And that is why training calm is one of the most valuable skills a person can ever develop. How do you do it? It begins with awareness. Most people live their lives unaware of how stress changes their behavior. They react automatically, like they're being controlled by something outside of themselves. But once you notice what's happening in your body and in your thoughts, you gain the power to choose differently. The moment you feel your chest tighten, instead of running with the panic, you stop and breathe. You slow the body so the brain can settle. Just one deep breath done with intention can start to bring you back under control. Think about this truth. Stress is energy. That energy can either control you or you can direct it. And the way you direct it is by creating a gap between what happens to you and what you decide to do about it. That gap is everything. If someone yells at you and you yell back instantly, you've lost the gap. If the phone rings with bad news and you panic before you even know the full story, you've lost the gap. But if you pause, if you take that breath, if you let the surge of energy pass through without reacting, you regain control. That gap is where calm lives. That gap is where smart thinking starts. The next step is preparation. Calm does not show up only because you want it to. It shows up because you practice it. Think about athletes who train every day. When the big game comes, they don't rely on luck. They rely on training. The same is true with your mind. You must rehearse calm when life is ordinary, so it will be ready when life is intense. That means practicing stillness each morning. It means learning how to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and bring your focus back to what matters. It means developing routines that steady your mind so sudden stress doesn't take over. One of the most powerful tools is the practice of deliberate breathing. When stress hits, your body naturally moves into shallow, fast breaths. That fuels panic, but when you slow down your breath, you signal to your brain that you are safe, and the brain responds by calming down. A simple exercise is 4 seconds in hold for 4, and then release slowly for 4. Do this for a few cycles and you feel the change. Your heart rate drops, your body loosens, and now your mind is ready to think. Another tool is mental rehearsal. Picture yourself in a stressful situation. Maybe it's a conflict at work. Maybe it's standing in front of an audience. Maybe it's getting that unexpected bad news. Instead of imagining yourself breaking down, practice seeing yourself calm, grounded, and in control. The brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined practice. So the more you rehearse calm, the more natural it will feel when stress shows up in real life. Now let's talk about perspective. Stress feels bigger than it is because we believe we have no control. But most stress is not about what actually happens. It's about the story we tell ourselves. If someone criticizes you, you can tell yourself they're attacking your worth. That story will create stress. Or you can tell yourself they're just sharing their opinion and you have the choice whether to accept it. That story reduces stress. The facts are the same, but the meaning changes everything. Train your brain to separate what happened from the story you attach to it. This is the art of thinking smart. And here's another truth. Most of the stress people carry is about the future, not the present. They imagine what could go wrong. They build worst-case scenarios. They live in what might happen instead of what is happening. But the brain cannot think clearly about solutions if it is lost in imagined disasters. To stay calm, pull yourself back to the present. Ask, what is happening right now? What can I do right now? This grounds your mind and frees it from drowning in fear. Self-talk plays a massive role. When sudden stress hits, what do you say to yourself? Most people say, this is too much, I can't handle this. That thought creates panic. Instead, train your inner voice to say, I can handle this. I will take it one step at a time. Simple, direct, empowering language shifts how you feel, and how you feel shapes how you act. Speak strength to yourself, and you build strength in the moment. Another key piece is discipline. Train your daily life to handle small stresses calmly. If you get irritated in traffic, practice patience. If you feel frustrated with small inconveniences, practice letting them go. Every time you choose calm in the little things, you are building the muscle to choose calm in the big things. Your brain learns patterns. If the pattern is panic, panic becomes automatic. If the pattern is calm, calm becomes automatic. This is how you prepare your mind for the unexpected. Relationships matter here too. The people you spend time with influence your calm. If you surround yourself with constant negativity and panic-driven talk, it will feed your stress. But if you spend time with people who handle pressure with composure, who face challenges with thoughtfulness, you absorb their energy and learn their example. Choose carefully who you let shape your emotional state. Now think about your environment. When stress hits, what is around you? If your surroundings are full of noise, clutter, and chaos, it amplifies the stress. But if you build an environment of order, calmness, and clarity, it supports your ability to think smart. Something as simple as keeping your space organized, reducing noise, and creating a corner where you can step aside and breathe can make a powerful difference. And then there is health. A tired body cannot handle stress as well as a strong one. Poor sleep, poor diet, and lack of movement make you more vulnerable to panic. When stress arrives, your brain will be weaker if your body is weak. But when you nourish yourself, when you exercise, when you rest properly, you build resilience. A strong body supports a strong mind. The truth is, life will never stop bringing sudden stress. You cannot control every event, but you can control your response. And when you train your brain to stay calm, you give yourself the power to choose smart actions instead of destructive reactions. That is the difference between living at the mercy of circumstances and living with strength and purpose. Imagine this. You get news that shakes you. Instead of panic, you breathe. You slow your body. You check the facts. You separate what really matters from what doesn't. You choose your response with clarity. And when others around you fall apart, you remain steady. They look to you for direction. They trust your judgment. You become the anchor in the storm. That is what training calm does. It not only changes your life, it impacts everyone connected to you. And when you build this habit, something extraordinary happens. You begin to trust yourself. You know that no matter what comes, you can handle it. That confidence reduces your fear of the future. You no longer avoid challenges. You no longer shrink from difficulties. You face them head-on, knowing your mind is trained to stay calm and think smart. The road to this kind of strength is built step by step. Start with awareness. Notice your reactions. Add in the practice of deliberate breathing. Rehearse calm in your mind. Change the story you tell yourself. Live in the present moment. Speak strength to yourself. Train daily discipline in small stresses. Build a strong body and choose a supportive environment. These practices, done consistently, transform your brain into a calm and capable guide. This is not theory. This is practical psychology lived out daily. People who master this live more peacefully, think more clearly, and make better decisions. They avoid unnecessary conflict. They handle crisis with leadership. They build stronger relationships, and they create lives filled with confidence instead of fear. So train your brain today, not tomorrow, not when life gets easier, but now. Because stress is not going away, but your ability to handle it can grow every day. Stay calm, think smart, make critical thinking your ally in difficult situations. This is how you step into strength, into clarity, and into the kind of life where you are no longer controlled by stress, but where you control your response and shape your destiny. Chapter 2. Strengthen logical thinking when emotions try to take over. When emotions run high, the mind often loses balance. Decisions are rushed, words are sharp, and actions come from impulse instead of reason. In those moments, your ability to think logically is tested more than ever. The challenge is not in having emotions, because emotions are natural and necessary. The challenge is in preventing emotions from controlling the way you think. To strengthen logical thinking when emotions try to take over, you must develop mental habits that keep you steady and focused, no matter how intense the situation feels. The first truth is that emotions are fast, while logic is slow. Anger can rise in seconds, fear can take over in an instant. But clear reasoning requires a pause. It requires patience. If you do not train yourself to slow down your immediate reaction, emotions will run the show. And when emotions dominate the mind, small problems become large arguments, and small fears become overwhelming disasters. By practicing the art of slowing down, you give logic the time it needs to catch up. This begins with recognizing triggers. Every person has situations that ignite strong emotional responses. For some, it is criticism. For others, it is rejection. For many, it is the feeling of being ignored or disrespected. If you can identify the moments that stir your strongest emotions, you will already be better prepared to meet them with logic instead of letting them control you. Awareness is always the first step to change. Once you are aware, the next step is interruption. When you feel the wave of emotion rising, you need a simple action that interrupts the automatic response. That could be taking one deliberate breath. It could be repeating a short phrase to yourself like, "I am in control." It could be taking a step back physically to create space between you and the situation. This small interruption creates a gap, and in that gap, logic can step in. Logical thinking thrives on clarity, and clarity comes from questions. When emotions push you to act, ask yourself very simple questions. What exactly happened? What is the fact here? What is my interpretation of it? What are 3 possible ways I can respond? These questions pull your brain from emotional impulse into reasoning mode. By shifting from reaction to inquiry, you change the direction of your thoughts. Another powerful habit is labeling emotions. Instead of saying, "I am angry," you say, "I feel anger right now." Instead of saying, "I am afraid," you say, "I feel fear right now." This small shift separates your identity from the emotion. You are not anger itself. You are a person experiencing anger. This separation gives your logical mind space to work. Once you see the emotion as a temporary state, not a permanent truth, you can guide yourself into clearer thinking. Training logic under pressure also requires practice when life is calm. If you only try to think logically when emotions are already high, it will be much harder. But if you build daily habits that strengthen reasoning, it will become natural. One practice is problem breakdown. Take a challenge and write it out in simple steps. What is the problem? What are the causes? What are the possible solutions? By making this a daily exercise, you teach your brain to think systematically. Then, when stress hits your mind, already knows the pathway of logic. Another habit is evidence gathering. Emotions love assumptions. Logic demands facts. When you feel upset, practice asking, "What proof do I actually have?" If you feel someone disrespected, you ask, "What did they actually do? Could there be another explanation?" Many conflicts grow not from reality, but from assumptions. Training yourself to look for evidence before drawing conclusions builds a logical shield against emotional distortion. Balanced reasoning also requires perspective. Emotions often magnify the present moment until it feels like everything depends on it. But logic asks, how much will this matter tomorrow, next month, next year? That question reduces the emotional weight of the situation and allows clearer judgment. By placing the problem in a wider frame, you weaken the hold emotions have on you. Self-talk plays a critical role here as well. When emotions rise, the inner voice often says things like, "This is unbearable. I cannot take this, or they always do this to me." These statements feed emotional intensity. Replace them with logical reminders. Say to yourself, "This is temporary. I will look at the facts first. I choose to respond with clarity." These simple affirmations recenter the mind on rational control instead of emotional chaos. Strengthening logical thinking is also about practicing humility. Emotions make you believe you are always right. Logic teaches you to step back and consider other viewpoints. In heated situations, practice asking, "How might the other person see this? What could I be missing? What is the bigger picture here?" This willingness to question yourself not only calms emotions, but also sharpens reasoning. Physical state influences mental state. When you are tired, hungry, or overstimulated, emotions are more likely to dominate your thinking. That is why caring for your body is part of strengthening logical thinking. Sleep restores clarity. Healthy food stabilizes mood. Exercise releases tension. A strong body supports a strong mind, especially in moments of emotional strain. Building this skill also requires reflection. After a stressful event, look back and ask, how did I respond? What was driven by emotion? What was driven by logic? What could I do differently next time? Reflection turns every mistake into a lesson. Over time, you notice patterns and build strategies that prepare you for the future. Relationships play their role as well. Being around people who stay calm under pressure helps you absorb their example. If your circle reacts to everything with emotional chaos, you will pick up those patterns. But if your circle practices measured, thoughtful responses, you will learn from them. Choose people who strengthen your logic instead of feeding your impulse. A practical exercise to develop logical control is the pause and retelling. Right method. When you feel emotions rising, instead of speaking or acting immediately, write down what you are feeling and what you want to do. Then look at what you wrote and ask, is this response logical? Does it help or hurt the situation? This process slows the reaction and gives space for reasoning to guide your choice. One of the hardest but most rewarding habits is delaying judgment. Emotions want immediate conclusions. Logic requires time. Practice telling yourself, "I will decide after I gather more information." This small delay often prevents mistakes and leads to better choices. It also teaches your emotions that they do not control the timeline of your decisions. Consider how many conflicts in life could be avoided if people paused and thought logically instead of reacting emotionally. Arguments that escalate into broken relationships. Decisions made in anger that damage careers. Words spoken in fear that close opportunities. Every one of these could have been softened by a moment of logic over emotion. The deeper reward of this training is trust in yourself. When you know you can remain logical, even when emotions are strong, you develop confidence in your own judgment. You no longer fear difficult conversations or unexpected problems because you trust your ability to respond with reason. That trust reduces anxiety and builds resilience. This practice does not mean ignoring emotions. Emotions are signals; they carry valuable information. Anger can point to injustice, fear can warn of danger, sadness can show what you value. But emotions are not meant to drive the car. They are meant to sit beside logic and inform it. Strengthening logical thinking is about giving emotions a voice, but not the final say. So how do you make this real in daily life? Begin by noticing your triggers. Interrupt your automatic reactions with a pause. Ask simple grounding questions. Label your emotions to create distance. Practice breaking down problems into clear steps. Train evidence-based thinking by seeking facts. Widen your perspective by asking how much it will matter in time. Replace destructive self with empowering logic. Care for your body to support your mind. Reflect on your experiences to learn from them. Surround yourself with people who model calm. Delay judgment until you have clarity. Do this consistently, and you will see the change. You will handle disagreements with maturity. You will solve problems without panic. You will lead yourself and others with strength. And you will walk through life with the confidence of knowing that no matter how strong emotions become, they will not control your thinking. When emotions try to take over, you will have the tools to stay steady. Your mind will become trained, not just to survive stress, but to turn it into growth. And that ability to choose logic over impulse, to choose clarity over chaos, will serve you in every area of life. It will shape your relationships, your career, your decisions, and your future. This is the power of strengthening logical thinking when emotions try to take over. Chapter 3. Identify mental biases that distort judgment in hard times. In times the mind does not always see clearly. Stress, pressure, and fear can cloud vision and distort judgment. What makes it worse is that the brain comes with built-in shortcuts called mental biases. These shortcuts are meant to help us make quick decisions, but under pressure, they often lead us in the wrong direction. If you want to think smart during difficult moments, you must first recognize the biases that sneak in and quietly control your choices. When you identify these biases, you take back control of your reasoning and your decisions become stronger and wiser. One of the most common distortions is confirmation bias. This is when you only notice information that supports what you already believe and ignore everything else. In hard times, this can be dangerous. If you believe you cannot succeed, you will only notice evidence that proves you right while ignoring signs of opportunity. If you think someone is against you, you will interpret every word and action as proof of hostility, even when that is not the case. The way to fight confirmation bias is to deliberately search for the opposite. Ask yourself, what evidence challenges my belief? What could I be missing? By forcing your mind to consider another angle, you open space for balanced judgment. Another bias that distorts thinking in hard times is catastrophizing. This is when you exaggerate the negative and expect the worst possible outcome. The car is late, so you assume the whole plan will fail. You make one mistake and believe your entire career is ruined. This bias fuels anxiety and weakens rational thinking. The way out is perspective. Ask yourself, what is the most likely outcome, not the worst possible outcome. Consider the realistic range of results. Most of the time, the disaster you imagine is far less likely than you think. Training yourself to ask for the realistic probability brings your judgment back to level ground. Emotional bias is another trap. When life gets hard, your feelings can shape what you see as truth. If you are angry, you may judge too harshly. If you are afraid, you may underestimate your strength. If you are sad, you may overlook opportunities for change. Emotions are powerful, but they are not reliable measures of reality. The way to reduce emotional bias is to separate what you feel from what is factual. Write down the facts of the situation in plain words, then compare them to your feelings. Often you will see a gap. This gap shows you where emotions are trying to distort your judgment. There is also availability bias. In difficult times, the brain tends to grab the first piece of information that comes to mind and treat it as the whole picture. If the last thing you heard was a negative story, you assume the same will happen to you. If the last memory you recall is failure, you believe failure is certain again. The brain picks what is easiest to recall, not what is most accurate. To avoid this bias, you must broaden the view. Actively gather more examples, more data, more perspectives. Do not let the first thing that comes to mind decide your path. Hindsight bias is another mental trap. When looking back after a tough situation, you may convince yourself you knew the outcome all along. This creates overconfidence and blinds you from learning. You say, I knew this would happen, but the truth is, you did not. This illusion blocks growth because you stop examining what you could have done differently. To fight hindsight bias, practice humility. Admit what you did not know. Accept that uncertainty is always part of life. By being honest about what you truly understood, at the time you stay open to lessons that strengthen future judgment. Anchoring bias is another distortion. In stressful times, the brain tends to lock onto the first piece of information it receives and treat it as the reference point for all decisions. If the first opinion you hear is negative, you may carry that negativity into all future thoughts. If the first number someone gives you in a negotiation, you unconsciously anchor around it. To avoid this trap, train yourself to question the starting point. Ask, is this number fair? Is this assumption correct? Gather alternative starting points before making any conclusion. The next bias to understand is groupthink. When people around you are also stressed, you may feel pressure to agree with them, even if their judgment is wrong. The need for acceptance overrides logical evaluation. In difficult situations, this can lead entire groups into poor decisions. The cure for groupthink is courage. Practice speaking your mind even if it is different. Ask questions that open the conversation instead of closing it. Strong thinking sometimes means standing alone until clarity is seen. Another subtle bias is self-serving bias. In times of struggle, people tend to take credit for success, but blame outside forces for failure. This prevents honest evaluation of mistakes. If you only see yourself as the hero when things go right and the victim when things go wrong, you will never grow. The way to fight this bias is radical responsibility. Admit where your own choices contributed to the outcome. Give yourself credit, but also accept your part in the failure. This honesty clears the path for true improvement. Negativity bias is especially strong in difficult moments. The brain pays more attention to bad news than good news. You may receive 9 compliments and 1 criticism, but the criticism is what stays in your mind. During hard times, this bias magnifies the pain and makes the situation look worse than it is. To balance negativity bias, practice gratitude. Each day in tough times, list what is still working, what is still good, what is still possible. This retrains the brain to see a fuller picture instead of being consumed by negatives. Survivorship bias is another distortion. People often pay attention only to those who succeed and ignore those who fail. In hard times, this can lead to unrealistic expectations. You may hear stories of someone who bounced back quickly and assume you should do the same, forgetting the countless others who took longer or struggled differently. To correct this bias, look at the complete picture. Study both successes and failures. Learn from all outcomes, not just the ones that are celebrated. Status quo bias also influences judgment. In difficult times, you may resist change simply because it feels safer to stick with what you know, even if it is not working. The fear of the unknown makes you choose familiarity over improvement. To fight this bias, you must challenge the comfort zone. Ask yourself, is this choice based on evidence or just habit? Am I avoiding change because it is truly bad or simply because it feels unfamiliar? By questioning the pull of the status quo, you open yourself to better options. Recency bias is another trap. The brain gives more weight to the most recent events than to the larger history. If the last week was hard, you believe the future will always be hard even if the months before were successful. This distortion shrinks perspective and feeds despair. To overcome recency bias, review the longer timeline. Look at patterns, not just recent moments. Remind yourself that one chapter does not define the entire story. There is also overconfidence bias. In hard times, some people react by convincing themselves they know more than they do. This makes them dismiss valuable advice and ignore warning signs. The danger is that overconfidence often leads to bigger mistakes. To balance this bias, practice humility and curiosity. Admit what you do not know. Ask for guidance. Double-check your assumptions. True strength comes not from acting like you know everything, but from seeking wisdom beyond yourself. Identifying these biases requires self-observation. Each time you face a tough situation, pause and ask which bias might be influencing me right now. Am I only looking for evidence that agrees with me? Am I exaggerating the negatives? Am I letting the group decide for me? This practice of questioning trains your brain to spot distortions before they guide your choices. Another strategy is writing. When emotions are high and judgment feels clouded, write down your reasoning. Put on paper the problem, the evidence, the possible solutions, and the choice you want to make. When you see your thoughts in writing, biases become easier to spot. You may notice you are ignoring information. You may notice you are assuming too much. You may notice you are anchored to the first detail you heard. Writing slows down thinking and exposes the bias hiding in it. Learning about biases is not about eliminating them completely. They are part of human psychology. The goal is awareness and management. The more you practice identifying them, the less power they have over you. Over time, you will catch yourself in the act. You will say, I am falling into confirmation bias, or I am exaggerating the negative, and in that moment you regain freedom of thought. This practice builds resilience. Hard times will always come, but if your judgment remains clear, you will make better decisions and create better outcomes. When others panic, you will remain steady. When others exaggerate, you will remain realistic. When others fall into distortion, you will lead with clarity. That is the strength of identifying and managing biases, and the deeper benefit is growth. Every time you catch a bias, you not only protect yourself from poor judgment, you also learn something about how your mind works. That self-knowledge makes you wiser. It makes you less reactive. It builds trust in your ability to think with balance even when circumstances are tough. So begin now. Observe your thoughts. Watch for distortions. Ask questions that challenge your assumptions. Seek evidence, not just comfort. Balance emotions with facts. Train gratitude to balance negativity. Review longer timelines to fight recency. Accept responsibility to counter self-serving bias. Surround yourself with honest voices to break groupthink. The more you practice, the stronger your logical judgment becomes. In the end, hard times reveal the difference between people who are ruled by hidden biases and those who rise above them. If you can identify the biases that distort your mind, you take back power over your decisions. You move from confusion to clarity, from fear to reason, from distortion to truth. And that ability to see clearly in the middle of struggle is one of the greatest strengths you can ever build. Chapter 4. Practice evaluating evidence before reacting to any problem. Most people get into trouble not because the problem itself is too large, but because they rush into action before understanding what is actually going on. The human mind is quick to judge and quick to react. When something unexpected happens, we often move straight to defending ourselves or fixing the situation without ever checking the facts. This is where mistakes are made. Acting without evidence can turn a small issue into a crisis. If you want to strengthen your ability to think smart in difficult moments, you must practice the discipline of evaluating evidence before reacting to any problem. The habit of pausing to evaluate is not natural. It requires training. The brain is wired for speed, especially under stress, but speed is not the same as accuracy. If you have ever snapped at someone and later realized you misunderstood them, you know how costly a fast reaction can be. Evaluating evidence means taking a step back and asking, what do I really know, what is only assumption, and what proof do I actually have? It means slowing down just enough to give yourself a chance to separate reality from interpretation. When you face a problem, the first step is to define it clearly. Most people never stop to do this. They confuse the surface symptom with the real issue. A co raises their voice, and you think the problem is disrespect, but the real problem might be miscommunication. A bill comes unexpectedly, and you think the problem is money, but the deeper issue may be lack of planning. By writing down exactly what the problem is, you strip away some of the confusion. You begin the process of working with facts instead of reactions. Once the problem is defined, the next step is gathering information. Evidence comes from data, not from assumptions. If the car makes a strange sound, you do not assume it is broken beyond repair. You check the engine. You listen carefully. You maybe consult someone with knowledge. In-life problems are the same. Do not treat every problem like an emergency until you have the facts. Ask yourself, what details can I observe? What can I measure? What can I verify? Evidence-based thinking requires this habit of checking before deciding. Another part of evaluating evidence is looking for multiple sources. One perspective is rarely enough. If you only listen to one person, you may only hear their interpretation. If you only rely on one piece of data, you may miss the bigger picture. Wise thinkers gather evidence from different angles. If a project fails at work, ask different team members what happened. If you feel tension in a relationship, ask directly for the other person's perspective instead of assuming. Multiple sources give balance. They protect you from being misled by a single view. Ask yourself what exactly happened. What are the facts? I can prove what is opinion, what is assumption, what is missing from the picture. Asking these questions breaks the automatic reaction cycle. It forces the brain to move from emotion to reason. A person who builds this habit gains a reputation for fairness and clarity because they do not jump to conclusions. They take time to understand before they respond. Sometimes the hardest part of evaluating evidence is resisting the urge to fill in the gap. When information is incomplete, the mind wants to complete the story, even if the story is not true. This leads to overreaction. The practice of patience is critical here. Admit when you do not yet know. Enough, hold back judgment until the evidence is sufficient. It takes strength to live with uncertainty, but that strength pays off when your decision is finally grounded in solid facts. Evidence evaluation also requires separating feelings from facts. Feelings are important, but they are not evidence. Anger does not mean someone wronged you. Fear does not mean danger is certain. Excitement does not mean the opportunity is good. Feelings can inform you, but they cannot decide for you. The practice is to write down both separately. On one side, write the facts you can verify. On the other side, write what you feel. Then compare. This shows you clearly where emotion is trying to influence judgment without evidence. Another important step is testing your assumptions. Assumptions feel like truth, but they are not. If someone does not return your call, you might assume they are ignoring you. But the evidence may simply be that they were busy. If a task takes longer than expected, you may assume you are failing. But the evidence may be that the task was more complex than planned. Always challenge assumptions by asking what else could explain this. By testing assumptions against alternative explanations, you prevent false conclusions. Practicing evidence-based thinking also means valuing accuracy over speed. In many areas of life, society rewards fast answers, but a fast wrong answer is still wrong. Slow, careful reasoning may take more time, but it creates lasting solutions. When others are rushing to respond, you can stand out by being the one who gathers information first. Over time, people will respect your judgment because your decisions prove reliable. Evaluating evidence is not only about avoiding mistakes, it also builds trust. When you show others that you take the time to understand before reacting, they feel respected. In conflicts, this can diffuse tension. In teamwork, it can inspire cooperation. In leadership, it builds credibility. People follow those who demonstrate fairness and clarity because they know decisions are not based on impulse, but on truth. You can strengthen this skill with simple daily practices. If you hear news, ask yourself, what is the source? If you feel upset, ask what evidence supports this feeling. If you face a decision, ask what information do I still need before choosing. Build the reflex of checking the evidence, no matter how small the situation. This daily training prepares you for the larger challenges when the stakes are higher. An effective exercise is evidence journaling. At the end of each day, write down one situation where you reacted and ask, what evidence did I use? What did I ignore? What assumptions did I make? Over time, you will see patterns. You will notice where you tend to jump too quickly. You will learn how often feelings try to act as facts. This reflection sharpens your awareness and strengthens future responses. Technology can be a tool in this process too. With access to so much information, it is easy to assume the first thing you read online is accurate, but evidence evaluation demands cross-checking. Look for reliable sources. Compare multiple reports. Ask if the information comes from a credible expert or just opinion. Training yourself to be skeptical of the first answer protects you from misinformation and strengthens critical thinking. A common mistake is reacting to rumors. In workplace, families, and communities, rumors can spread quickly and cause unnecessary conflict. Practicing evidence evaluation means refusing to react until the truth is verified. This requires discipline, but it prevents wasted energy and broken relationships. Instead of passing on what you heard, say, I will wait until I see the facts. This single habit can protect you from endless trouble. Another practice is slowing down language. When you speak in absolutes like always, never, everyone, no one, you are usually ignoring evidence. These words come from emotion, not fact. Instead, use precise language. Say this happened once, or this is often the case. Precision in words forces precision in thinking. It reduces exaggeration and aligns your thoughts more closely with reality. Evaluating evidence is also about timing. Sometimes waiting just a little longer brings the information you need. Acting too soon can lock you into a poor decision. The patience to wait for clarity is not weakness, it is strength. Those who react instantly often regret. Those who wait for evidence build wisdom. The practice of evidence evaluation extends beyond personal life. It applies to society as well. Leaders who fail to evaluate evidence lead nations into conflict. Businesses that ignore evidence collapse under poor strategies. Families that react without evidence break trust. The discipline of looking at facts before acting protects not only individuals but entire communities. There is also an important link between evidence and accountability. When you base your decisions on evidence, you can explain them clearly. You can say, here is why I chose this path. Here is the proof that guided me. This transparency builds respect. Without evidence, decisions appear random or selfish. With evidence, they appear strong and fair. The long-term benefit of this practice is confidence. When you know your choices are based on solid information, you feel secure in them. Even if the outcome is not perfect, you know you did the best with the facts available. This reduces regret. Regret comes most often from acting too quickly without checking the evidence. By evaluating first, you protect yourself from unnecessary guilt and doubt. To master this skill, start small. Pause before responding to a text that upsets you. Gather details before assuming the worst about a situation. Ask questions before giving an opinion. With practice, it becomes second nature. Soon, you will find yourself automatically slowing down, asking for facts, and thinking through options before reacting. This way of living brings peace. Problems lose some of their power when you look at them through the lens of evidence. Fear fades when you know the facts. Anger softens when you realize the story was incomplete. Confidence grows when your actions are grounded in truth. This is the real strength of practicing evidence evaluation before reacting to any problem. In every challenge, there is the quick reaction, and there is the measured response. The quick reaction often makes things worse. The measured response, guided by evidence, builds solutions and stability. The choice is yours in each moment. Train yourself to choose evidence over impulse. Build the habit of checking the facts before moving forward. Live this discipline daily, and you will notice your problems become clearer. Your decisions become stronger, and your life becomes more steady. The world is full of people reacting without thinking, but those who practice evaluating evidence stand apart. They become the voices of reason when others are confused. They become the steady hands in times of crisis. They become the trusted leaders families, co-workers, and friends turn to. This is the reward for building this skill. It is not just about solving problems, it is about becoming the kind of person others can rely on when life becomes difficult. Chapter 5. Develop clear reasoning by asking focused, powerful questions daily. Clarity does not arrive by accident. It is created by the questions you ask yourself every single day. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your thinking, and the quality of your thinking shapes the quality of your life. Many people live on autopilot, repeating the same habits and accepting the same answers they have always had. They wonder why they feel stuck or confused, yet they never stop to ask the right questions that open doors to clearer reasoning and better decisions. If you want to develop strong, clear reasoning, you must train yourself to ask focused, powerful questions daily until it becomes a way of life. The human brain is built to respond to questions. When you ask a question, your mind starts searching for an answer, whether you realize it or not. If you ask weak questions, you will receive weak answers. If you ask questions that are vague, your thinking will stay cloudy. But if you ask sharp, precise questions, your mind will dig deeper, uncover facts, and bring forward insights that might otherwise stay hidden. Asking the right question is like turning on a light in a dark room. The space was always there, but now you can see clearly where to go. Start with questions about facts. Many situations become confusing because people do not separate facts.